Hi there, Janet Fritz here for Galaxy Girl Creations. Welcome to my channel. And I am working on a layout that was a little bit for Creative Cuts Club and a little bit for a mixed media class that I took over with Christina Sorge at Redefined Creative. And so I've got a lot of mixed media going on here. I'm starting out with this leaf stencil. I believe it's from Echo Park or Cartabella. I'm not sure which one, but you know, they're the same company pretty much. So um, it is one of their stencils. And I am using some paper glaze in Brown Dahlia, Golden Rose, and Marigold Orange. And then I am going to carefully put it through the stencil so I don't make a big old mess with that Brown Dahlia. I really love the color. It's kind of shimmery brown with kind of gold shimmer in it. It's super pretty. And I'm going to go with a central, like a column down the middle, if you will. And obviously you can see that that's what I'm doing here. But I've got two photos of my grandson who is trying to shovel leaves into his little car. He doesn't do a very good job of shoveling because, you know, he's only 2, but it's super cute that he was trying, and then of course he had all of us participating as well. So I'm going to use the packaging technique, and I'm using some Dilutions spray, and I'm using Pure Sunshine, Tangerine Dream, and Lemon Zest in case you need to know what colors those are. I did wait for the paper glaze to dry, which paper glaze does dry very quickly, and it's one of the reasons I love it so much, as well as the fact that it goes on so smooth and the colors are beautiful. Instead of spraying onto my packaging, I'm just using the nozzle to drip some on there, and part of that is because I didn't want any blowback from the spray. Sometimes when I spray it, it kind of like splatters around the outside of the packaging, and I didn't want to really deal with that. I kind of wanted to keep the right and left sides of my paper clean there. And I'm just using plain old white cardstock, nothing special about it. I think it's probably from Hobby Lobby, and I have it taped down to a piece of foam board that's covered in packaging tape, and that is so I can let it sit to dry. I can move it off of my table, and the blue tape there will hold it in place, and when it dries it will be flat again. Although I'm not using a ton of moisture on here, so there's not a lot of warping to begin with, but this works well for pretty much any mixed media. If you're using a lot of mixed media and you tape it down like that and let it dry completely, it will go back to flat for the most part. So yeah, I really like how it's looking here. I'm liking that central design. One of the techniques in the class, well, these were two of the things that she taught in the class, but then she talked about all the different things you can use in place of spray, like watercolor, and you know, tons of different options available. And so I then also decided to bring in some of my Nuvo sparkle spray, and I think it's called cocoa powder or something like that. It's really pretty. I like that color too, and it has a little bit of a silver sheen to it, so that looks really nice. This is going to be a very fall layout. I don't do fall layouts very often, so it was kind of different for me, but I do like the way it ends up. So those are my two photos there, and I am going to work on doing some stamping, so that was also part of the class. So I am going to do some stamping on this layout around the photos, and so I want to get the photo placement down before I decide where my stamping is going to be, and even then I'm a little bit cautious about how far out my stamping is, and you'll see that I covered up a lot of it with my photos and had to stamp multiple times. And I am using some washi tape. I really love this brown chevron washi tape, and then I decided this yellow one, I'm going to tape it lengthwise on the roll. That is the easier way to rip it in half lengthwise, and just by leaving it on the roll makes it a lot easier. And I'm going to do the same with this orange, but the orange doesn't peel up as easily as the yellow does, so I end up just peeling it off the roll and then putting it back down on the roll and then ripping it, because I think it was so stuck on the roll that it didn't want to go ahead and rip. So I'm just layering that up, making a shelf for my photos to sit on. I like how that looks. This is not one of my normal types of layouts where I have that central design, but I do like how it looks, and so I do it every once in a while. It kind of has a big impact right in the middle, so I kind of think that's kind of fun. So I have these 2 leaf stamps, and those are stamps that are from Studio Light. It's the Extreme Textures Art by Marlene set, and it's got like, I don't know, 25 stamps in the set, and these 2 little leaves were in there. And then there's like these little round, they're not dandelions, I don't know exactly what they are. They're kind of like an asterisk, but not really. They have more lines than an asterisk. And so I'm using those as well. And the first time I stamped it where I knew the photos would be covering it, so I could test it out and see how I liked it. And then I decided to go ahead and put a few more. And I'm kind of going with a diagonal embellishment group, and there doesn't need to be a ton of embellishing on this just because there's already a lot going on with all of that mixed media. And so I figured this is a really good way to bring my embellishment placement in by putting the stamping behind it. I did obviously back those with some black cardstock. Once the entire layout is off of this foam board, I'm going to back the entire thing with black cardstock as well, and you will see that happen. I do test out brown to see if I like brown better, but it just doesn't give the impact that I want, so I end up going with the black. I'm going to go ahead and put some more washi tape up into this corner, and just to bring in more of those colors and to define my embellishment area again. And I wasn't sure where I was going to put my title, but I do end up putting it right on top of the photos, and I'm using this wood grain font. I did not have an O, so I ended up having to trim down, I don't know if it was a G or a P or something like that. I trimmed down one of the letters to make an O out of it, basically, because the only O that I had was a 0, and it is like super big. It's taller than the full-size letters, like the capital letters, or not, actually that doesn't have capital letters. It's taller than like the D that has the A sender on it. And what happened there is these letters are so old that when I pull them off, it left a little bit of residue behind, so I was just wiping that off. It didn't actually peel the photo or anything like that. And I ran out of E's as well, so I decided to make my title Load 'em Up, and I did not put an EM, I put an apostrophe M, and then an exclamation point. So that works out for me. I like how it looks. It's kind of hard to see the letters on the screen here, but they do show up nicely in real life. And then I toyed with putting some washi tape around the edge, so I'm checking that out and seeing how that works. And I don't like it. It's just too busy. There's too much going on. If it had been maybe a more solid pattern, maybe it would have worked well. Or if I had used one of the washis that I used underneath the photos, maybe. But overall, I wasn't a huge fan. So I go with my old standard of doing an outline or a border around the entire thing. I thought about doubling up the brown with the black, but I just like the black by itself. It's bold, it makes an impact, and so that's what I go with. It also matches what's around the photos, so I think that looks really good. Carries that same design through, just bordering your photos and bordering your entire layout with the same color. And then here are some leaves that were in the Creative Cuts Club kit from, I think it's March. Nope, it's April. So it was the April 2020 kit, and it is the Floral Frenzy kit. And I really like these leaves. They're really pretty. And what I was looking for when I was going through the stack of leaves were sets that I could cut in half easily and have them look like they belonged. So if you see that one that I've got there, There is a leaf at the very tip, but it also has a broken branch piece. And so when I cut it in half, if I leave a broken branch piece, it looks like it belongs that way. I'm not cutting off the flower that's like, or the leaf that's right at the very tip. Some of these, if I had used them, the piece where I cut it would be obvious that I cut it. And this was one that was not really obvious. So I am inking them up. I'm using brown. These are little Versamark or Versafine ink pads. I've had them in my stash for a long time, and so the color is actually called brown. And then I used a yellow, and then I used some walnut ink, which is darker than the brown. The brown that is in those little cubes is kind of like a reddish brown, whereas the walnut ink is more of a true brown color. And then I brought in some orange, so I'm trying to just mimic the colors that are in the mixed media that I used. I do pull in some Gina K ink. I started out with tomato soup, which was too red, and went with fired brick is what I believe it's called. And that was like the right combination. And so I like that. I like how that's looking. And you're going to see right here, I cut it and you can't even tell because it looks the same as the other piece. And then I'm going to use this one as well. You can see those other ones that I'm looking at, they have kind of like the leaf right at the end, and so I didn't end up using those. And this one I am just using walnut stain or walnut ink, and then I am going to use some acrylic paint that is kind of like a dark brown coppery color, and that was something that I got in a Layout Palooza class with Christina at Redefined Creative, and I think it was like maybe 2 of her Layout Palooza classes ago. I'm not really sure, but it's like a leftover from a class, and I'm just kind of like dry brushing that on really lightly, and I'm not even going over every single spot. I just want some of those leaves to have a little bit of shimmer to them. So I'm going to cut that in half as well. Now you wouldn't necessarily have to cut your leaves in half. I am just doing that because I don't need them to be super long for this particular layout. I just want some of them showing on each of the corners, and so that's why I went ahead and cut them rather than using additional leaves from the kit, because I didn't want to waste them. You know, there's no reason to waste them if you don't have to. I do throw in another leaf, and it's going to be that one right there, cutting it in half, and this one's just going to be white. And I really like how that looks because the background's white. It just gives a little definition between all of those other leaves that are going to be piled up on top of each other, provides some nice shadows when light catches it. And then I have some translucent leaves that also came in the kit that I play around with using, but I don't end up using them. They're a little bit too elegant for this particular layout. And then I forgot to turn my camera back on when I did the last bit of embellishing and journaling, so you're going to have to see that in the close-ups. I end up using 2 different size labels in each of those corners, and they kind of crisscross over each other. There's a black at the bottom and then an orange on top, and then I have these little leaf dies. I believe they're from Paper Smooches. I've had them forever, and I punch out or die cut out of some gold glitter paper a leaf for each one of those, and I just layer them up on top. So you'll see that here in just a few moments in the close-ups. And again, I'm sorry that you didn't get to see me do that on camera. Thanks so much for watching. I hope you really enjoy this video. I'll see you guys next time. Bye bye now.